Thanks for joining us. I'm Callista Solon, and you're watching NLC Trans. Tonight I'm here with my dear friends and co-hosts, Tara Alexander and Renee Benoit. I actually thought we were going to have a guest tonight, but apparently we don't. However, next week we will have the girls from Consax. We have Anna Doragazi and Bethany, and unfortunately I don't know Bethany's last name. I can't remember, but they have been on the show before and will be on again next week. And that should be a very interesting show. They're always a good bunch to have on. A very good organization, Consax. And anyway, so we had some things to talk about. And somebody put a Mr. Goodbar in front of me, which is very nice, and I appreciate that. That's sort of a reference to my looking for Mr. Goodbar, I suppose. But anyway, I suppose I've stopped looking for Mr. Goodbar. I don't know. Anyway. But
well, didn't he turn out to not be a very nice guy?
He was not. Well, if any of you that are familiar with the movie Looking for Mr. Goodbar, Richard Gere turned out to be a very unpleasant character in that movie. It was that awful movie. I mean, it was a good movie, but it was just a disturbing movie, Looking for Mr. Goodbar. But that goes that goes way back. It was Diane Keaton and Richard Gere. God, that must have been in the 70s, I think. But anyway, I digress.
And I should explain to people, I'm trying to stay in touch with Facebook alerts because as we speak, the House is potentially voting on the HB 6599. So I'm hoping that sometime during this broadcast we'll get word about it passing.
And so
it'll be breaking news.
We are
live on the air.
Yes, very cool. So we are going to be talking about that a bit and potential amendments and those kind of things. I know you had printed out a bunch of stuff on the amendments just as we were going out the door.
A couple of things, yeah.
Which could be very interesting. And certainly, if we run out of things to talk about, we can talk about that very interesting conversation we were having earlier, which was a kind of a off-the-wall thing that you brought home with you. Tara and I were talking earlier about values and how we as human beings develop values, and if it is all tied to religion, which I don't believe, but
so far nothing.
But sorry. But we were kind of having this discussion about that, which was very interesting. The concept of where values come from.
Yes. Yeah. It started at work.
But anyway, I'm sorry. I'm just going off
on a tangent. No, it's not a tangent. It's an arc.
Yeah, but it was an interesting conversation.
It's an orbit. It'll come back around.
Yeah, sooner or later. I always do. Anyway, so we should probably talk about the bill, House Bill 6599, an act concerning discrimination. I know we've talked about it before, but it's very, very important. It's very near and dear to our hearts, and it's currently in the House. And potentially there are amendments that could be tacked onto it, which we're not happy about. We want this passed without amendments. Obviously, anti-discrimination legislation shouldn't have amendments excluding anybody. It's one of those things. It's like anti-discrimination shouldn't have qualifications somehow. It just rubs me the wrong way. But anyway, I'll let you talk a bit about the
I mean, I know it's kind of unseemly to talk about the opposition, but the opposition has put together a one sheet here that has the icon for the women's restroom, and it says underneath it "men" to hand out to legislators. The image itself is pretty offensive, considering that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Psychological Association considers me a man.
Right.
But because this guy and his wife do, anyway. He continues to talk about in this, or they continue to talk about.
And this is the FIC.
The Family Institute Action is the lobbying arm of the FIC, I believe. But continue to talk about men dressed as women but sexually attracted to women shouldn't be allowed to use women's public bathrooms. The conflating in one breath, warning legislators not to confuse Transsexuals should not be confused with homosexuals. To be transsexual includes men dressed as women, or may internally identify as women, but are still sexually attracted to women. Men sexually attracted to women, with all the aggression and physical strength of men, should not be permitted into the women's public bathrooms. Well, he's wrong in the first sense that transsexuals are, we've talked about it, most of you watching probably know the difference much better than he does. Transsexuals are not men dressed as women.
Right.
Transsexuality is, according to the American Psychological Association, such a significant discomfort with your physical appearance, your internal sense of who you are, is in such disarray with your physical identity that it causes you disruption in your daily life. You can't function properly without correcting it. And that includes both people who are seen who are identified at birth as women, who are actually men, female to male transsexuals, and people who are identified as male at birth, who are actually women, male to female transsexuals. And then on the second note, the whole idea that because you're attracted to a woman, you shouldn't be allowed to use the women's restroom, completely does it does nothing to legitimately address any concern, because lesbians are certainly attracted to women. Bisexual, pansexual people, whether they're male or female, attracted to women. You know, women attracted to women. The notion that a woman wouldn't be aggressive or have a sufficient physical strength to overcome another woman is really offensive to the whole feminist movement. It's just incredible. On top of which, if men are such innate, baseline sexual predators, that allowing them access to women, if they're sexually attracted to women, is going to cause an assault in the bathroom, then why don't men who are sexually attracted to men, who are allowed to use the men's restroom, where is the rash of sexual attacks on men by gay men who have the strength and opportunity? It's just not there, and it's really offensive.
Yeah.
You know, they talk here, one of the big concerns that had come up that we saw at the public hearing, and we've heard, is this notion that gender identity and expression is something that you know internally about yourself. And the only way anyone outside of you can know it is through you telling them, or through your expression, your gender expression, showing it. People don't like the notion that they can't look at you and pigeonhole you. I understand it makes some people uncomfortable, but they're going so far as here to say that nothing in the bill requires a person to outwardly identify their gender, the gender that they may internally sense, in order to take advantage of this law. So basically, if you're transgender, we want you to walk around wearing a sign so that everybody knows what your internal gender identity is. And I look at it and I say, well, it's real interesting that religion is another area that's already protected by our anti-discrimination laws, that you self-identify as. Nobody can tell your religion simply from looking at you, unless you choose to wear, particularly religious garb or iconography and stuff. And just because you're wearing a cross doesn't necessarily mean you're a Christian. So there's certainly, religion is a very strong internal sense of what your religion is. It's not something that for most people flip-flops on a daily basis. And the only way anybody around you knows it is because you identify it. You tell them, or you wear symbols that people can pick up on.
And that's protected.
And that's already protected, and nobody has a problem with it.
As is sexual preference.
As is sexual orientation.
Which you can't necessarily tell either.
Well,
and
the people who write stuff like this think they can tell, but the fun part is they really can't, and they just don't know it.
Yeah.
You can't tell someone.
The arguments are so fallacious, and the whole fact that our opposition, the FIC, or the FIC,
FIC Action,
the action group,
FICA.
their action group, the fact that they keep calling this thing the bathroom bill just really irritates me. It's not a bathroom bill.
Which gets into one of the other things. Let's see. I didn't actually read this last paragraph. directly and indirectly increases the risk of violence and peeping in women's restrooms.
God. It kind of makes me wonder where their heads are.
Sexual predation and peeping are terrible crimes that well-intentioned legislators will exacerbate in Connecticut by inviting men into women's public bathrooms, showers, changing rooms, lockers. It just doesn't make sense from any kind of psychological standpoint that a guy who would want to sneak into a women's bathroom and peep on a woman is going to then go and dress as a woman.
Yeah.
It simply violates the sense of manhood that he's trying to reinforce through the act of peeping.
It's ridiculous.
Sexual predation, as the folks next week I'm sure will tell us, sexual predation and peeping are power crimes, not sex crimes. And to think that a guy who's going to commit one of these power crimes is going to, in his mind, dress as a girl in order to gain access is really absurd.
It is. The whole argument is bizarre and
insulting
ridiculous.
to us.
And clearly, fundamentally, they don't get it.
They don't get it. They won't. Well.
Anyway.
So the couple of amendments that were submitted today on our bill, on HB 6599, an act concerning discrimination to add gender identity or expression to the state's anti-discrimination laws. One of the amendments offered by Representative Rowe of the 123rd District, Representative Clarides of the 114th District, and Representative Cafaro of the 142nd District seeks to currently in the anti-discrimination law there is an exception that says that with the respect to the prohibition of sex discrimination, it shall not apply to the rental of sleeping accommodations, separate bathrooms or locker rooms based on sex. There's a longer list here. Nursing homes owned and operated by affiliates, religious organizations, But the big one here is this gets back to the bathroom bill. This is the exception that says it's not against the law to prevent men and women from using the same bathrooms. It's okay to discriminate when it comes to bathrooms, locker rooms, and shower rooms. And what they're looking to do is change the language in the bill from sex discrimination to discrimination on the basis of sex or gender identity or expression, which would really gut the protections in the bill. Well, not the entire bill, but one of the strong areas of the bill, so that, well, we wouldn't be allowed to use anybody's bathrooms.
Yeah, that's insane.
So for all you guys out there, just so you're clear what they want to do, they want me to go sit in the stall next to you in the men's room to go to the bathroom. That's what they want to have happen with this legislation, with this amendment, and with the arguments that they make, is they want you to walk into the men's room and see the three of us standing there washing our hands after having sat down to pee.
Yeah.
Does that seem right?
That's insane. That's insane.
Their thoughts are in the correct.
Yeah, that's just
unbelievable.
And then, okay, so I don't know if I even want to go there. It's just so crazy.
Well, what that also means, though, is that the female-to-male transsexuals, the ones that we've had on the show that you may have seen that look like guys and have the deep voice and the big muscles because they've been taking testosterone, they're supposed to go use the women's restroom.
Right.
Which would put them in the same threat category over here of being, gosh, sexually attracted to women and retaining all the aggression and physical strength of men.
Which comes from testosterone.
Which comes from testosterone, which they're on high doses of. This is nonsense. It's crazy. It's not thought out. It doesn't follow APA, American Medical Association guidelines. It just doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other one is a little more understandable, but it's still a problem. They want to, currently the bill has the language that gender identity or expression means the gender identity or expression of a person who has been diagnosed by a healthcare professional. Let's see, no, I'm sorry. And insert the following in lieu of their, okay, so they took the original language out, which had gender identity self-identified, that said that your gender identity is something that you feel deeply inside, and that you will acknowledge your gender identity and gender expression, and they want to replace it with the language that says gender identity or expression of a person who has been diagnosed by a healthcare professional as having a gender identity disorder as defined in the most recent edition of the American Psychiatric Association's Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. On first blush, that this sort of seems like it might be a reasonable thing. The problem is it doesn't, it cuts lots and lots of people out of the protections of the law. The first thing that people have to realize is it's around $1,500 to be tested.
Yes.
In order to get that diagnosis. It's around $1,500.
Yeah, which virtually no insurance covers.
No insurance covers. And, you know, if any of you out there have $1,500 or $3,000 or $4,500 so we can help some of our friends get tested and get the official diagnosis, you know, there's a great opportunity to start a nonprofit there. Because most of the folks don't have the money to actually get that diagnosis. On top of which, that diagnosis is needed in order for someone to start hormone therapy or to have some of the reassignment surgeries. And if you if you do not elect to have hormones, or if you have medical conditions that contraindicate that treatment, as Stacy points out, hormones and surgery are treatments. They are not they are not the result of a diagnosis. You would never go to a psychiatrist and pay $1,500 to be tested to get this diagnosis unless you were seeking one of those treatments.
Yeah. So what happens? So what happens to somebody like me now? I've had surgery. You know, I'm vaginal. Obviously, I've been taking hormones for a very long time. So clearly, I got this diagnosis a long time ago. But I don't carry around a piece of paper with me saying I have this diagnosis. What happens if I go into a ladies' room and get arrested for being in the and what am I supposed to do? Go into the men's room? Who's going to protect me in the men's room? From not necessarily, I'm not suggesting that men are predators, because I don't believe that's true.
But from the women that follow you in there to beat you up like they did in Baltimore.
Yeah,
or
follow me in there and to beat me up because their husband's in there, or some man who's offended by my presence in there. Who's going to protect me from that? But what happens when I don't have that piece of paper with me and I get arrested for being in the ladies' room?
Right. So I mean,
where do I belong?
So fundamentally, one of the concerns that we heard raised by some of the legislators when we were at the public hearing was it's really discomforting to some people that I can't tell from looking at you whether or not I can discriminate against you.
So then don't discriminate.
I mean, essentially, that's what they were saying is, I want to be able to know in a clear way that you are transgendered, and therefore it's okay for you to go use that bathroom, or for you to, I don't know.
But that's crazy. Well, you know, it's crazy.
So that's one of the concerns that had been raised several times was, well, how do we tell? And the answer was always, you have to ask them. Just like with sexual orientation or religion, you have to find out. You can't just assume based on appearances, which is the point of a lot of anti-discrimination laws. You can't just assume based on appearances.
And why? And further, why necessarily do you need to know? There are certainly natal men and women out there that are somewhat androgynous, and maybe you can't tell.
Well, there's a good example that hit Facebook recently. There's an androgynous. There's biologically born as male, cisgender male. This person identifies and lives their lives as androgynous. Is a model, has done a lot of modeling, and has done some modeling in very feminine roles. Typically appears with, and I'll use his for lack of knowing better, his hair, frankly, a short version, he's on the cover of a magazine. This androgynous person's on the cover of a magazine this month. And the cover's been censored in several locations.
Wow.
Because he's bare-chested and his hair's up in curlers and he has makeup on. So he has a very feminine-looking face, but his chest is exposed.
Interesting.
This is a person that chooses to live an androgynous lifestyle. This person identifies as androgynous. This is an androgynous individual.
Yeah.
Does not
So-
identify as male or female specifically.
So when somebody wants to go into a bathroom somewhere, do we need everybody carrying cards to determine what gender they are or which bathroom they're allowed to use? This is craziness.
Well, and if that's going to be the amendment, if that's going to be the rule that we use to identify gender, then that ought to be the only requirement to change all your identification across the board. If that's the rule, if that's the line in the sand, then that diagnosis needs to let me change all my license, all my state and federal documents.
Right.
If that's the line in the sand. You need to bring the rest of the laws in compliance with it. Otherwise, I can have the diagnosis, but if I haven't had surgery, then my passport hasn't been changed. You know, you don't answer the question of how can I tell easily that you are who you say you are. So it's another false argument.
It is.
It doesn't address the concern.
Honestly, I like the sort of the rule that we have as far as bathrooms, the sort of Connecticut policy
Yeah.
as far as the bathroom thing.
As defined by the CHRO 11 years ago.
Right, the rule of least astonishment.
The rule of least astonishment.
It's like, where do I look like I belong? You know, where should I go where people won't be astonished to see me? It's like, give me a break. It's easy.
And honestly, I honestly think that if we were sitting in a men's bathroom, people would be very astonished to see us there.
They would.
And nobody has been astonished in any of the women's bathrooms I've been in.
Yeah. The whole thing is insane. And I just really dislike this whole thing turning it into this bathroom bill
Yeah.
thing. It's like, this was about equal rights. This was about anti-discrimination. And we have the FIC out there that have to turn this into the bathroom bill.
This is a bill that protects transgender people from being fired because your boss doesn't like you being transgendered.
Yeah.
This is a bill that protects you from your landlord tossing you out on your butt because they find out you're transitioning, and that doesn't jive with their religion. So they kick you out. I have a lease. Now I have to go to court and sue over that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
these are important
It protects you from lending in lending areas, so that you can't be denied a loan because you're transgender. I mean, what does that have to do with my ability to pay it back? It's a very broad protection. It's protection that the CHRO has already ruled we should have, and it needs to be codified into law so that there's a uniform code that everybody can go back and look at.
Right.
And these amendments don't jive with the CHRO ruling.
Right. We actually have a phone call.
Sorry, I didn't mean to spend half an hour
I
talking
suppose
about
we
this.
should take this and then we'll get back to our discussion, because this is really very important, and this whole thing is, it really is. Anyway, we're going to take this call. Good evening, NLC Trans, you're on the air.
Yes, hi. This is a long-time watcher. I've been watching your shows since you started,
Well, thank you.
and I'm 77 years old,
Wow.
and I've been a transsexual since 1970.
Wow.
And so I've been through all.
Good for
but
you.
you know what the problem is with you girls? You've got to be more feminine. You're not. If you're going to go to ladies' room, you got to have some makeup on. You got to. I know this for a fact because, listen, I was in the military for a long, long time and got out, and I'm still involved in the American Legion and the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And don't you think I had a problem when I first went there? Absolutely. They said, we can't have homosexuals. I said, I'm not a homosexual. I had a sex change. And a few people read back until 1986, I think, or 85, when I sued the American Legion, and it made international news. There was never a discussion about toiletry.
Right.
There's no questions about my sexuality because no matter where I go, I'm treated as a woman. And of course, now I'm an older woman, and I go to the hairdressers every week, and I do this, that, one, and another, and it's just when you make this decision to become a gender reassignment person. Now, I had my reassignment done in Mexico City. I have friends that had it done in Trinidad. So there's a lot of places, and I understand you went to Montreal.
Yes.
And I go there quite often because I have family there. So you see, but if you want people to look at you as a man, that's what you're thinking. You can't think that. You have to think, I'm a woman, whether I had my reassignment in yet or not. You have to think woman. You have to think, everything you do, you have to think feminine, because that's what the country looks at. Now, this business about the toiletry that's going on now in the state, this discussion would have never came up had it been brought out by some weirdo. And who was the man that brought it out?
Yeah. This would be our friends at the Family Institute of Connecticut, and I don't want to name names, but Peter Wolfgang.
Oh.
Yes.
The thing is, I've lived in London all my life, and nobody bothers me. And when I grew up here as a male, and I've been through it all.
Yeah.
Oh, and I still live here as a female, but I mean I'm back home as a female, and most of mine was done while I was in San Diego, not Connecticut.
Right.
So all my passport's been changed, my driver's license has changed. You don't have to make a big issue, and I hear you every time talk about this. You do not have to make an issue. If you change your name legally, go into a probate court, have your name changed, you take that down to even before you have your reassignment, you take that paper that you're from the court, from probate, go down to the motor vehicle, they will give you a new license with your name on it.
Yes.
But you have to change your name. You don't want to go down there as Ronald Green, and
Sure.
But believe me, that's an easy process of doing that.
It is.
Now, don't you think that I worried about when I did my passport many years ago? I thought, gee, I was a man for a long time, and as I sit here now in my aging days, I feel sorry for the kids and the women and the boys and the girls that are going through this gender problem. There's a bigger gender problem today than we ever had years ago. And but I watch you girls and just watch the if you feel Tara, if you feel I am Tara, was it Alexander?
Yes,
Who is Tara Alexander?
I am.
Yeah.
Tara, all you have to do is go to probate. All right, go to probate and get your. I see you.
Right.
Just go to the probate and say, I want to change my name, and they'll do it.
And
we've already done all this.
Huh?
I've done that.
We've
Yes, I
already
have
done all
that.
of this. Yes.
Well, then there should be no question. Did you get your license?
Yeah, I have. My license has my current legal name on it. Yes.
Well, I know that she has hers done, but she should never worry about going into a ladies'
It's
room.
no.
If you think
Changing
if
your
wanna
name
peek
doesn't
around
let you change your
corners,
gender marker, though.
That's the way I go in just like I belong here.
And so do we. And so do we. Honestly.
But I did it before I had my assignment.
Right. And
So I mean, you just have to be proud of who you are and what you are, and you can, because there's always going to be people.
right.
There's always going to be people that are going to look down on us.
Of
It
course.
doesn't make any difference.
And-
You just go on about your business.
And we do. We absolutely do. And certainly, I don't hesitate about going into a ladies' room.
Oh no.
But the problem here is that we're trying to get legislation passed without crazy
we used
amendments.
to have a couple gay congressmen. I don't know whatever happened to them.
They're still around, and they're very out.
Yeah, they are. Absolutely. There are plenty.
There was one that was married to that movie star that, I forget his name, the big fat guy. He plays drag. He plays drag
I
on
don't
the
know.
stage. On
I don't know that
what
one.
was it called?
Yeah.
Gee, I'm getting old. Anyhow.
Anyway.
I know. Andy Maynard is very active. And
Oh, I
very
know
out.
he is. I know him.
Yeah.
Now, this is another guy that he brought up a lot of things, you know.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's good to see you people doing your job, but don't let all this, don't let this political crap go through, make you feel like you're less than what you are.
Oh, it doesn't.
Don't
It
say I'm a
doesn't.
woman.
It absolutely doesn't.
It doesn't. But when
Just
someone
trying
is
to support the bill that's trying to get passed.
You know,
When someone
in
is
the very
trying-
near future, I will send you my phone number.
Okay.
And what I want you to do is call me, and I would like to have this for lunch.
Sure.
So,
Okay. Maybe you'd like to come on the show.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
Too many people know me.
Okay. All right.
I told you, read the article. If you got your paper, look at the New London Day. Let me see now, around June, or July, August, and look up the article I told you about, and you're going to find out what I was and who I was. And I was on all the shows. Jenny Jones, remember Jenny Jones?
Yep.
Well, I was on Jenny Jones and Oprah, and that's when she was in early days. I was on Phil Donahue in New York City. And so, you know, the people that they had on guesting with me were all gay. They were either male to female or female to male. And you'd be surprised the people I met, school teachers,
Sure.
lawyers. I mean, there are a lot of people that have had gender reassignment. People
Yes.
just
Yes.
don't know.
But when you're absolutely right. But just like when you stood up because the American Legion was trying to mistreat you, the legislation that's before the state now is going to potentially mistreat us as well as you. And
Yeah, but
we're trying to stand up and make people aware of that the same way you did.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's the only way. You know, believe me, they pay attention when the world's looking at you. Because I got letters from Europe and all over the country, pro and con, believe me. You know, and but the only reason what happened with the American Legion was I had been senior vice commander for 3 years, and I decided, I think I'll run for commander. Whoops.
Oh, wow.
You hit the glass ceiling.
And that's how it started. So I said, all right. And this is where you call the old boy network all white men. And that's who I was against.
Wow.
But I lost on the rebound. You know, could you believe me? Each election after, they stuck those boxes. And before that, they didn't care. As soon as I decided I was to declare myself as a commander, an applicant for, they said, oh, no. But I can tell you, the most prominent, I won't say his name, but the most prominent sergeant major in the country lived in Connecticut. And he was gay. He'd come into the post with 2 boys every night. And the bartender would say, oh, new nephews?
Wow.
New nephews.
So anyhow, ladies, I'll let you go. I know you've got a lot to talk about.
Okay.
But,
Thank you so much for the
it's
call.
good to see you active.
It was wonderful.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you so
welcome.
much.
Good night, ladies.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
That's wonderful. Wow. She's great. Very cool.
I'll do one more check.
Anyway, so yeah, we're just trying to
Stand up and be counted.
pretty much, yeah. We'd like to get this anti-discrimination law passed and
Without the amendments.
Without the amendment.
and yeah, we just obviously
Oh.
because amendments scare me. You know, with the thing when it comes to this kind of thing. Certainly, you start. And in the past, certainly this isn't exactly what we're looking at here, but typically the amendments are for the purpose of excluding some group, or like school teachers, for instance, which is scary. It just sort of absolutely doesn't sit right with me to say we can't discriminate against anybody except you. It's like, no, you're missing the point.
Do you want to move into another kind of discrimination?
Oh yes, yes. This was something we've been talking about a little bit. was the Out for Immigration thing, which is certainly a very interesting thing, and it's just a really unfortunate problem that we have because of DOMA. I guess Article 3 of DOMA. This whole concept that and we actually have another phone call, but this idea that you can you can get married to a foreign national and sponsor them for U.S. citizenship, and that's fine for everybody except same-sex couples. Apparently, it doesn't work because of DOMA, and they sometimes get deported or are not allowed in this country. And couples, people that are married, are separated because of this. And it's a horrible, horrible thing.
You can get married in the state of Connecticut, and if you were a heterosexual couple, you'd be able to sponsor your spouse for citizenship. However, the government, because of Section 3 of DOMA that defines marriages between a man and a woman only, prevents the federal government from recognizing your legal state marriage for the purpose of sponsorship, for sponsoring citizenship.
Which is just wrong. And
but we'll take the call.
We'll take the call and get back to us.
Yeah.
Good evening, NLC Trans. You're on the air.
Hello?
Hi.
Hello.
Hello?
You're on.
Hello?
Yes, you. How you doing?
How are you?
Good, and you?
Good. I just wanted to express that I think that everybody coming out with all this stuff going on, the transgender thing and the gay rights thing, I think it's a wonderful opportunity for people of faith to understand what's going on in the world, and that we need to see people for who they are.
Sure.
And in that aspect, to see the fact that God created us a certain way, whether male or female, and marriage is ordained by God between a male and a female. And for you to cut me off, I hope you don't do that, but just hear me out.
Sure.
That I think this is a wonderful opportunity to express the fact that this nation has turned away from God, and to see people like you on the television and radio programs, it's a wonderful opportunity for the Christian community, especially the fundamental Christian community, to see the signs of the times and what's going on in the world, and the fact that people are really up in arms because people have fallen away from God. And
Okay.
And I think as far as the government and the federal thing is recognizing gay marriage, first of all, we live under a system of government, and for the gay marriages to be recognized under a system that man has created, if the gay community and the transgender community want to live under that system, and they want to abide by that system, and they want to be recognized by that system, I think it's basically, it shows the rest of the world what kind of times we're living in.
Okay.
And the fact that the system actually was put here for man, by man.
Okay. And
It was created by man, for man, to serve man. And if man wants to live under a system of rules and regulations that are ungodly, then so be it. So if the government itself wants to recognize the gay community and everything with subsidies and tax cuts and tax benefits.
There's no subsidies or tax
No,
cuts.
there's
On the fact of having paperwork.
no, there's no tax subsidies. In fact,
on the
there's a
fact of
tax
having
burden.
paperwork, I think it's a wonderful thing. If the
No.
government wants to do that, then that's great, because you know what? There are those of us like myself that don't want to live under a tyrannical system that's fallen apart. And if you guys want to live under that system, that's fine.
But
You will
so
benefit from
here's
that
a question for you then.
At some point,
Okay,
you will.
Okay, you're
Take the
gonna
mark of the beast.
You're going to have to share the
You
microphone.
can cut me off all you want.
you're gonna have to stop and let us
I'm
answer
not
this.
going to live under this awful system
Okay,
that we live under.
but you're gonna have to
You're
you're gonna have to stop. You're going to have to
He's not
stop
gonna-
talking for a second here so we can address this.
Off.
You know what? No, I'm in control here.
No, you're not. I have the button. Listen, first of all, the system of government, in case you're not familiar with the First Amendment, there's a part in there about petitioning the government for a redress of grievances, which is exactly what we do. And second of all, we have not moved away from God. Because I'm transgender doesn't mean that I've moved away from God. I have a very strong relationship with God. I just this whole notion that well, all right. Anyway,
The fundamental question that I would have had for our caller is, whose religious system would you like to have be the basis for laws in this country? Because even if you want to build the laws of this country around a religious doctrine, we have to agree on whose religious doctrine we're going to follow. In this country, there are hundreds and hundreds of different Christian sects, hundreds of different Jewish sects, and hundreds of different Islamic sects, and hundreds of different Buddhist sects, and hundreds of different Wiccan sects and pagan groups. And so
Sure.
we need to determine whose religion, if we're going to have this conversation about getting the country's laws in line with a set of religious beliefs, which was the tone of the caller's conversation, that we need to bring the laws of the country back in line with the laws of God. The first thing we need to do is decide whose religious laws we want to follow. And I'm not sure anonymous caller from southeastern Connecticut,
right.
has the authority over the entire country to say it's my beliefs.
Right.
No one else's.
Which is insane.
It's my God and no one else's that our laws should be based on. So fortunately, what our founding fathers said is, you have the right to believe and follow whatever religion you want. However, we do have a secular government. It's not Iran. This is not Iran. This is not Israel. We do not have laws based on a religious text. We have a secular government, and that secular government has bestowed to the states the right to define relationships.
Yeah.
And our state,
and by the way, I'm sorry.
oh, and the states and the government allow those rules to be changed, as you were saying, through petitioning your government.
Yeah. And I apologize for having to cut this person off. I don't like having to do that. But if you're going to call the show and make statements or ask questions, you have to give us a chance to respond. This idea that you can just keep talking and never pause and never let anybody else speak, I'm going to eventually have to push the off button. I'm sorry.
So
So
do you want to
anyway.
roll in 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Do we have good time?
Do we have time?
Yeah, yeah, we do.
Okay.
So on this Out for Immigration thing, this is a commercial that was produced by the Out for Immigration group. It's just about 5 minutes long, and if you guys have it queued up, we'll just go to it.
Yeah.
We've been together for 10 years.
7 years.
And a half.
7.5 years.
4 years.
17 years.
Almost 6 years.
Since April 21st, 1995.
We met in a club
On Valentine's Day.
on the Usenet group.
The Lexington Club here in San Francisco.
I didn't know Karen was from another country when we first started chatting online. She told me she was from Portland.
My partner is in her country right now because I can't sponsor her to be here.
We had a religious visa to come over as a choir director, but that meant not really making our relationship public because we worked at a conservative Baptist church.
Vicky was actually here on a work visa, so there were no complications until the .com crash happened and she lost her job.
Last week I flew over to the United Kingdom to be with my partner, and immediately I was stopped at the border. I was told I was too old to be doing this. I should be married with a house and kids in America. They doubted my relationship with my partner. They detained me for 24 hours.
And then they told her that she'd been coming to America too often. They didn't give her her full 6-month visit, and they told her she had to leave the country for a long time. So it was at that point that I knew that I was going to have to take early retirement so that we could stay together.
We've met so many wonderful people, so many couples whose lives have been destroyed and torn apart.
He was a shoo-in for legal residency, at least in the words of one attorney, except for HIV.
We thought about moving to Vancouver.
Canada, possibly Australia, New Zealand, and maybe even Argentina now.
We could live in Australia together legally, but that's not what we want to do.
I really feel like this is my home. It has become my home.
Why should we be any different to anybody else who gets married in this country? Right?
He's the one. We're getting married soon.
We're too close to the change happening. We can feel it.
We've been together already 1/3 of my life, and I intend to spend whatever time I have left on this earth in this marriage with my partner.
This is supposed to be the land of the free, and I want to have it actually be that.
Whether you're gay, lesbian, whatever you are, you know, we deserve equality.
We deserve the right accorded to all citizens to sponsor our foreign-born partners.
What's standing in our way is a stupid definition of the word spouse under the Defense of Marriage Act.
We need people to speak out about this issue because, yes, it affects a small population in this country, but, you know, as long as there's no justice to one community, there's no justice anywhere.
Get our full rights as U.S. citizens to sponsor our partners. I honestly don't know what I'll do.
I have no idea. Go to Sushi Masa and have and have sake.
Probably have the first good night's sleep I've had in 4 years.
I'm going to go to the church and bring Eric.
I'm going to go hug everybody I know that's helped us and prayed for us and loved us and tell them everything's all right.
To quote from a song that I really love, it says, my family tree is losing all its leaves, and but a few leaves left. So yeah, I would like to go back and visit and be able to come back again without problems.
We've worked so hard. We've worked tirelessly. We're all volunteers. We all have full-time jobs and other things going on in our lives. And it's just so important to us to just get on with our lives.
Hope you enjoyed that. That's Out for Immigration, and basically just looking for sort of fundamental fairness in the way we treat people, and people, you know, binational couples that are same-sex couples are discriminated against. And I'd like to point out, our previous caller was talking about tax, some kind of tax break or something we're getting. I don't know where he got this nonsense. There are, I think, 1,100 different penalties we suffer?
Almost 1,300.
1,300 penalties?
In federal law, because of the way the federal government doesn't recognize a state-sanctioned same-sex marriage, there's almost 1,300 federal laws that are impacted. Not any one person wouldn't run afoul of all 1,300, but they run the gamut from, you know, if your spouse is a postal worker or in the military or working for any branch, any type of government job, a same-sex spouse isn't entitled to most of the inheritance and health care and benefits, and they've made some strides to reduce some of that, but you can't file your federal taxes jointly.
Right.
And in some states, that means you can't file your state taxes jointly. So you lose the tax breaks that you get by filing as couples. And there's all kinds of
it goes on and on.
inheritance inheritance rights. Everywhere that the relationship gets defined is ignored.
Yeah. There aren't any benefits. It's like, I'm sorry. It's so anyway. But so that's certainly something that needs to be changed. DOMA needs to just go away. But.
So in the last couple minutes we have, I'm going to run through a couple of things that are going on around. A quick update to anyone that saw our show from a couple weeks ago when we ran the video of the 22-year-old trans woman that was attacked in the McDonald's restaurant by the 16 and 18-year-old. McDonald's attack suspects face hate crime charges. The 2 female suspects are facing hate crime charges in the case of an attack on a transgender woman at a Maryland McDonald's last month. Authorities have said that the attack took place on April 18th at McDonald's in Rosedale on the outskirts of Baltimore. Tiona Brown is being charged with 1 count of first-degree assault, 3 counts of second-degree assault, and a hate crime, according to the state's Attorney General's office. A juvenile suspect, who remains unnamed due to her age, faces identical charges. Both women are in custody. No other individuals will be charged. So that's the update on that attack. Today there was or recently, there was a sort of attack. Newt Gingrich, while he was on a book signing, was the target of a LGBT activist.
Really?
Yes. Newt Gingrich was showered with rainbow glitter, courtesy of a 24-year-old LGBT activist prior to the 2012 presidential candidate's Tuesday appearance at the anti-gay Minnesota Family Council annual dinner. While shouting, "Feel the rainbow, Newt," activist Nick Espinoza said as he poured the glitter on Gingrich and his wife, Callista. And if you get to see the video, he poured it all over the table. They got a little bit on them.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
During a book signing, according to ABC News, "Stop the hate, stop anti-gay politics. It's dividing our country and it's not fixing the economy." Espinoza later told ABC, "I don't think a free will adulterer like Newt has any ground to stand up while telling others who they can and can't love."
Wow.
So yes, I'm predicting that "Feel the rainbow" is going to become a catchphrase.
Feel the rainbow, wow. Okay, I think we're being thrown off the air here.
Sorry.
Anyway, we have to go. We'll be back next week with Context. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.